Yeah, well, I guess I am a sort of city boy opera singer, but I grew up on a cattle station on the border of South Australia and Victoria, in the Western Districts of Victoria, and as at the age of 3, I was actually a voice soprano, and I grew up singing the music of John Williamson and Slim Dusty and all these sort of great Australian songs. And I had lessons with the local singing teacher of the town. Of course, I was her only student, but I would have singing lessons with her, and it gave me an opportunity to sit around and actually learn how to sing somewhat. And then obviously, and all this time I was still singing Australian sort of songs, like Old Man Emu, and all these songs, Pub with No Beer, and all these things that was 6 and 7 year olds singing Pub with No Beer. But it was how I learned how to interpret song. And so that's what happened. Then I went off and I had this voice that broke and came back, as a mature sort of baritone voice, and off I went singing, opera and different things. But it's just you have this thing with music. You might be all right at something, but it's really what you love and what you really enjoy. And to me, it's really quite uncanny to be gone off and done all of this opera stuff, and then to come back and to where I originally started. But it's really interesting because I wouldn't be able to do the stuff that I do now if I hadn't done all of that stuff.
He went waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, you'll come waltzing Matilda with me.
Galleries of Pink Galahs was written by John Williamson in the mid-80s, and I think that for anyone that has grown up on the land or grown up in rural bush towns, or anybody that even knows anybody on the land, the drought is just one thing that you've got no control over. I mean, as a farmer, it doesn't matter how well you prepare your land, it doesn't matter how well you know your land, it doesn't matter how well you run your business or whatever you do, but there's just one thing you can't do, and you can't make it rain.
Galleries of pink glass, crystal nights with diamond stars, apricots preserved in jars, that's my home. Land of oceans in the sun, purple hazes, river come, breaks your heart when rain won't come, it breaks your heart.
Well, all young boys and girls have older people that they look up to, and older people, I guess, that they always want to be around. And for me, that was certainly my grandparents. And my grandfather and I called him Pa, and we always used to spend an enormous amount of time together. And I'd be always sitting on his knee. I think about 8 I learned to drive, and it was until I was 10 that I graduated to drive the tractor. But I always used to sit on his knee driving on, around all the districts and around through our paddocks and through other people's paddocks and up and down the highways and things. And Pa would be looking at everything. He'd be looking at all the land and all the stock and everything. He'd be looking at absolutely everything but the road. And people used to laugh at us as we'd come up. I'd be sitting there on his knee driving flat out, 15, 20 kilometres an hour. And we'd have these dogs barking and carrying on in the back. And some of them were quite expensive. Some of them, were quite expensive cattle dogs. And each one was just as useless as the next, They'd all learn each other's bad habits. But he loved animals. He just had this great love of them. And we always had a minimum of 5 dogs in the back. He always used to teach me about the great, cattle stations. He used to talk about this great country and all the history behind it. And when he passed on, he left me his library of books on Australiana that he'd collected over his lifetime. And today I still read them, and it just feeds my fascination for this land, and especially those outback cattle stations that are just so enormous. So I wrote this song, and this song's about my Pa.
I remember I was 10 years old, I was sitting on his knee, learning how to drive a tractor, 5 dogs, my Pa and me. It was important I knew how to plough for future holidays. He couldn't think of a better way I could spend my days. young boys, they have great dreams of what they will become. Firemen, cops and pilots, or detectives with a gun. But me, all I wanted to be was just like my pa, droving cattle in the bush, steering his old blue car. I tried to look like him, tried to act like him, and even developed a limp like pa. And even today I wish I could be half as good as pa. And I read those books and practice your looks, just trying to look like pa. I wish you knew how much I missed you, my dear old pa.
If you listen very carefully, you can actually hear Bernie singing backing vocals on We Are Australian.
We are Australian. I am, you are, we are Australian.